Greatness, a word not defined just by who you knock out, but also how you get back up. And who better to do it against than good old Kentucky? A rivalry dating back centuries, crossing state borders and into enemy territory. It is Big Blue versus Big Orange. It's the Kentucky Wildcats and the Tennessee Volunteers from Lexington, Kentucky. This is the Border Battle. And what an epic battle it is going to be, ladies and gents. Good afternoon, and welcome back to Tort Sports. I'm joined once again by Patrick Falcon, Luke Attal, and Luke Lamory. I'm Jeremy Knott II. Last week was a rough one for the Tennessee Volunteers, but they have an upcoming opportunity to bounce back. The Vols are back on the road for the second consecutive week, taking on another longtime rival, the Kentucky Wildcats. We'll take you through what the Big Orange will need to do in order to keep their SEC championship and playoff hopes alive. Now, later on in the show, another crew with some new and familiar faces will tackle the latest in UT athletics, but the big highlight is going to be about former baseball head coach Tony Vitello. So without further ado, ladies and gents, let's get rolling. After falling victim to the Alabama Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa 37-20, the Volunteers are back on the road, going up against another rival dating back to 1893. The Kentucky Wildcats welcome the Big Orange back to Kroger Field in hopes of getting their season back on track. After falling short to the Texas Longhorns at home 16-13 in overtime, 13th-year head coach Mark Stoops and company will fight to make this a turning point for the program as the hunt for their first conference win continues. And this will be the 121st meeting all-time between these two rivals. But should we really call them rivals at this point? Because Tennessee has dominated the series ever since, or for most of the time. And you take this millennium alone, the 2000s, Tennessee has 21 wins over the Wildcats. But regardless, this is going to be an important game for them, as now they have to put Alabama behind them and focus on this challenge that Kentucky brings.
That's 100% what this team needs to do. Obviously, not how you wanted last week's game to go against Alabama down in Tuscaloosa, but you got to look at the positives from that game. There were a lot of positives to take from that game. Joey Aguilar continued to have himself a good night, 268 yards passing. You've seen that throughout the season. He did have that interception, which was a little unfortunate, but Deshaun Bishop also had 123 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So there were a lot of positives to take from this game. And as much as people may disagree with me when I say this, Tennessee was in that game for a very long time. It may not have felt like it with the interception coming right before half, but coming out of the second half, you start with a 3-and-out for Alabama. You go down, score a touchdown. Now it's a 10-point game, then a forced fumble the next drive. So you have the momentum. Then you're not able to capitalize it. But even in the fourth quarter, you're only down 10 to start the fourth quarter. So there were a lot of positives from that game, even though it didn't come out the way the Vols wanted to. And I think they just need to focus on what went well in that game going into this one.
I'm with you 100%. I think you have to look at your team and say, hey, we're a good football team if you're Tennessee. And I think you have to look at it all around. You know, you're third in points per game this year. You're fifth in the nation in yards per game. You're a good football team. The Tennessee Volunteers are a good team. And you have to take a look at it from a giant bird's eye view. You've got a quarterback coming in. We've talked about this pretty much every episode this season. You've got a new quarterback coming in. He's got a new game plan. You've got a lot of new players. And, you know, Alabama's a tough team, and I think that you have to sit down and say, hey, we're doing okay. You mentioned Joey had a good game, 260 yards. And I think that if you take a look at it all together, you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, let's move on. And I know it hurts for those players. Those players wanted that so badly. But you've got to be able to say, let's move on. Let's get to the next game.
Now, Attal, you can call me a pessimist here, but I really do think that score did not reflect how much Alabama controlled and dominated that game. And that's what it seems like to me. And like our wonderful host said in that intro, it is about how you get back up. I mean, it's about how you keep going. And that, to me, is a culture thing. In the new day and age of college football, people want to say culture doesn't matter with the transfer portal and with so many coaches moving spots and stuff like that. But you look at the elite teams year after year, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon. I mean, those are cultures that are on the rise. So how do you get back up? I think that starts at the top, and you don't want to let one loss turn into, I'm going to give you an example of Penn State early in the year. They lost a double overtime, a whiteout thriller to Oregon on the last play of the game. And then what do? They go underperform versus UCLA. And then they lose their next 2 games straight, and James Franklin gets fired. And then on the flip side of that, you have a team like Georgia, who lost a close game versus Bama, 24-21, heartbreaker, ended their 33-game home win streak. But then they come back next week, beat Kentucky by 21. So what's your culture going to be like? And that really starts with the coaching of Josh Heupel at the top. How is he going to respond? How is he going to get this team to respond?
Yeah, and especially it's about how you emotionally compose yourself that determines if you really have what it takes to bounce back. And especially this week against Kentucky, historically, under Mark Stoops, they are very physical on both sides of the ball. And you take last week against Texas. You know, they may not always have what it takes to beat the higher-ups in the SEC, but they're going to give you a run for their money. They're going to show you what they're all about. They're going to make you earn that win against them. And Kentucky has a big opportunity this weekend to show that physicality against the Volunteers, especially since Tennessee had a tough pill to swallow after their 11th straight loss in Tuscaloosa to the Alabama Crimson Tide. And on paper, Tennessee appeared to be the better team statistically with 410 total yards in offense and 27 game first downs. But Alabama was able to capitalize off the Vols' key mistakes. Along with Ty Simpson's outstanding performance with 253 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, the defensive back Xavier Brown would intercept the pass from Joey Aguilar, and he took it back for a pick 6 to end the first half, and the rest was history. And I don't mean to rub more salt in the wound here, but this was Alabama's 17th win in the last 19 meetings between them and the Volunteers. So Alabama has dominated this series for the better part of the last 2 decades. And in games like this, it is easy for the fan base and other critics to immediately point the finger at one player or one coach or one play that could have changed the whole trajectory of this game. But now, I'm going to put you guys on the spot. You've had a week. Now it's time to let it out. What went wrong for the Vols? Was it sloppy play? Was it coaching? Or was it a combination of the two?
It's definitely a combination of the two. I think it starts with the coaching. There's a lot of talent on this team, and I understand that they're a young team, but what this team lacks is a standard of excellence. Great teams don't drop passes. Great teams don't miss tackles like they do. Great coaches don't get out-leveraged for the 10th time on a crack toss play that just happened over and over. Great teams don't pat fumbles away. Even though the Tennessee Vols got it back, I mean, it's just a careless mistake that they keep making. And you look at the upper tier of SEC teams for the past few years. You look at Alabama, you look at Georgia. Texas was there last year, and it seems like Texas A&M is there this year. Tennessee's always been that second-tier team. They've always had the talent. You know, they could get a big win here and then get a big win there, but they don't do the little things correctly. They have snaps that go haywire, like this one right here. They have fumbles that shouldn't happen. They have drops on 3rd down that they need to get. And great teams don't do that. I understand Georgia had a drop problem last year, but you look at especially the 4 teams I just named throughout those years. They do the little things correctly, and Tennessee just doesn't do that.
Well, I think another little thing that isn't an easy fix, but it's something that needs to get better for this team is the 3rd downs. The 3rd downs are a huge issue. And in this Alabama game, Tennessee was 5 for 13 on 3rd downs. That's around a 38% success rate on 3rd down, and that's lower than their season average, which is at 48%. So when you're playing against these good SEC teams, you want to keep the momentum and you want to keep your drives going, and you just didn't see that in this game. A lot of drives stalled out, and a lot of 3rd downs just resulted in no points. And the other thing is the red zone offense. When Tennessee got into the red zone, there were way too many plays in the red zone before they scored. In the first drive of the 2nd quarter, you're 1st and goal from the 2, and it takes you three tries to punch it in there from the 2-yard line. Like, just little stuff like that just needs to get a little bit better for this team as they move forward and continue SEC play.
So definitely for you two guys, the big focus is on the need for improvement in the offensive production. But how about you, Luke Lamery? You're sticking with offense, or are you going with the defense?
I'm going to stick with the offense too, and I think that the offense is held to such a high standard from the first couple of games. I think that you have to give them a little bit of grace in some sense of the manner, but they still have a lot of improvement to do. And I think there was not just the offense, a lot of drive-killing penalties too. I mean, we saw that safety was horrible in the first half, as well as the infamous play, the pick 6, right at the end of the first half, right at the end of the 2nd quarter. Those are ones that not only affect you on the scoreboard, but they'll affect you mentally. Because I guarantee you, when you go into that halftime locker room, heads are hanging, you're looking down towards the ground, and you're away, so you don't come out to that roaring Volunteers crowd. There's a lot of factors there, and even Heupel said, I don't think they ever looked comfortable out there. I don't think they once looked normal. Now, Heupel said, when you're playing a good team, the details are going to matter. We lost in the details tonight, and that's my responsibility, our responsibility. I don't think they ever sat down and said, here's what we need to do. Let's connect the dots here and get everything going. To me, they never looked at ease. They never looked relaxed.
That's been a big point for this team, too. Not just this season, but in previous seasons as well under Heupel, is in these big games, they don't look comfortable and they don't look confident. So that's a fantastic point there that needs to change for this team going forward.
And I want to point out the majority of what we said has to do with coaching. I mean, those are coaching mistakes. I mean, you talk about the pick six. Obvious passing situation. You get 2 plays in. You're going to line up in power and run play action. If you're going to pass, line up in shotgun. If you're going to run, line up in power. But you can't do kind of both. I understand the throw, not where it needed to be. Heupel's not out there making the throws like he was back at Oklahoma. But still, it's just dumb decisions like that and little mistakes that add up.
But to me, you could have also spiked the ball at the end of the second half there, and you could have had one timeout, and maybe you could have run the ball. And if the Vols didn't get in, you could have called that timeout. To me, Heupel ran 30 seconds off the clock at the end of the first half. You could have called a timeout there. There's a lot of things that could have happened that Heupel is coming under a lot of fire about his time management.
Yeah, obviously from listening to you guys' discussion, there were a lot of key mistakes in the plays. Of course, the safety, and then there was that interception from Joey Aguilar. If you run in that situation, it could go into the second half only down by 2 points. Could have changed the game completely. But here's something else I don't understand. Remember last week we were talking about discipline? In this game, penalties for Tennessee, they had 10 penalties for 66 yards. And that goes back to discipline. It goes back to coaching. Obviously, those key plays, they were big mistakes for the Vols. But Tennessee needs to be better at keeping their composure on the road, and they have a chance to do that this week against the Kentucky Wildcats. And alongside these issues that we described, there were even more key moments that had big effects on this game's outcome. And for that, we bring in our play-by-play guys, Zach Pelfrey and Lucas Reisenweber.
Thank you, Jeremy. So we are going to give our top 3 moments that we think changed the trajectory of this Tennessee Volunteers game versus Alabama. Lucas, you have the first 2.
Of course, that comes to missed opportunities. And now in this first tone-setting drive for Alabama, Tennessee has them backed up in their own end zone. Tennessee has a great pass rush, but in these opportunities against mobile quarterbacks outside the pocket, he's trapped here. But you have 3 cornerbacks down on the right side of the field, up on Jam Miller waiting for the dump off. But you have Josh Cuevas up in the middle of the field, wide open. Ty Simpson gets out of the pocket. Cuevas gets that first down. This drive ended up going for that first touchdown, set the tone for the rest of the game. Missed opportunities, though. Tennessee in the red zone. We have a pass play here. They did end up scoring, but Kitzelman is up at the top. Now, against a small D-back like that, you want that matchup, but Joey instead decides to take the ball up, takes a big hit. It left him shaken for the rest of the game. I'd say that had an impact.
The whole turning point of this game was this pick six. Now, look at their formation. They're in a heavy set formation. Aguilar back in the pocket. Nobody thinks that this is going to be a run play. It was a terrible play call, terrible play fake to an underthrown ball that led to a pick six. That completely changed the entire trajectory of this game. You go down 16 at halftime. The Vols never recovered from that.
It was the dagger, and that's where we fall. I mean, that comes down to decision-making and those missed opportunities to get a touchdown like that at the end of the half. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you a little bit more later on in today's program. So, gentlemen, there is no denying that this was an emotional game for the program and for the fan base. But Coach Heupel, he's making it very clear, especially at the beginning of his Monday press conference, the direction that this team needs to go moving forward.
Obviously, everybody disappointed with the outcome from the other day. But whether you win or lose, you got to flip it forward and watch a video, learn from it. Another test inside of this league on the road against a good football team, and one that we're looking forward to. And hopefully, we see a lot of our fans make the trip up.
And Coach Heupel is absolutely right in this situation. You know, when you're going through moments like this, all you can really do, especially in a league like the SEC, is that you got to put the past behind you and dial in on the next task at hand. And obviously in this program, some change needs to occur so that they can be a lot more successful down the road. But the question is where? Where does the change need to occur?
I think it's with the run defense, first and foremost. I think in a league like in a conference like the SEC, you're playing against these massive offensive lines and these running backs who are able to burst out and get big runs. So your run defense is critical, and that's not been a strength for the Vols this year. They've on average allowed up 134 rushing yards per game, and while that may not sound like a lot of yards in the grand scheme of things, it's enough to allow teams to get a run game going and then build off of that. And that needs to tighten up for the Vols defensively going forward.
I think it's red zone offense, and I talked, I guess, last week about the red zone offense. They were averaging 94.6% of their trips to the red zone they were scoring, whether it's touchdown or field goal. After the Alabama game, it's down to 87. So this game tanked their red zone scoring percentage. And to me, you got to look at these big games coming up for the Vols. There's a lot. You've got Vandy, you've got Florida, you've got so many more. You've got Oklahoma coming up. I think to me, you have to nail down that red zone scoring percentage in these big games when it matters most.
Gentlemen, we need to have a tough conversation. And I think we're kind of tiptoeing around it just a little bit, but we do need to have a tough conversation, and it's about defense coordinator Tim Banks. And everyone wants to talk about how good the defense was last year. Last year was the outlier, and I hate to be a super negative guy, but you want to let's look at the past 3 years, not including last year. Last year was a great show by him, but it seems to be the outlier. I mean, 2023, you're giving up 34 points to Bama, 36 to Mizzou, 38 to Georgia. 2025, you're giving up 44 to Georgia, you're giving up 37 to Alabama, and you're giving up 24 to UAB. I mean, that should never happen. I don't even care if the second or third stringers are in. I mean, UAB just fired their coach because they're incapable of consistently putting up points on offense. And versus an SEC team, that cannot happen. I understand you can look at the averages overall over the past few years, but it's easy to hold these cupcakes to low points. But in those big games, the defense just has not shown up, and that starts with him.
Yeah, so obviously these are going to be some big changes that need to be made in the program, but they're going to have to put those changes into action because tomorrow night, 7:45 kickoff in Kroger Field, and that environment can always be dangerous no matter who they are playing against. So obviously, it's going to be an important game between both the Vols and the Wildcats. And we'll be right back with our preview of this matchup in Lexington. But in the meantime, here's Hayes Kelleher to show you the storied history of this rivalry series between Tennessee and Kentucky.
This weekend, your Tennessee Volunteers take on the Kentucky Wildcats for their 121st matchup of this historic rivalry, making it the longest lasting in Vols history. This first game dates back to 1893, and it didn't start off strong for the Vols, losing the first game at home 56-0. But ever since that game, the Vols have had it out for Kentucky, racking up 85 wins over the Wildcats and only recording 26 losses and 9 ties. There have been very few rivalries that have lasted 120 games, getting the nickname the Border Battle, and many have described the rivalry as a sibling-like rivalry. Along with the tradition was the beer barrel, which was given to the victor when the two teams played. This tradition started back in 1925, and the barrel was painted volunteer orange and Kentucky blue. It was used to celebrate the fierce rivalry between the two schools, showing the score of every game. However, the last time the beer barrel was used was in 1997 because of a fatal alcohol-induced car crash involving 2 Kentucky football players a week before the 1998 rivalry game. The two schools mutually agreed to stop exchanging the beer barrel because of its alcohol-related symbolism. The last time the beer barrel was seen was in 2019 when former tight end coach Brian Niedermeyer posted a picture from his office showing off the trophy. This rivalry has created some legendary games, including the 2022 Dark Mode game with a dominant Tennessee victory of 44-6, as well as in November of 1950 when the two rivals played during the historic Great Appalachian Storm, where temperatures got down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit in Knoxville in what is now known as the coldest day. Despite the hardships, the Vols pulled off the win with the only score being thrown by Tennessee's Hank Loroshella to Bert Rechichair on 4th and long. And the quarterback alumni Peyton Manning left a big impact on the rivalry, throwing for 1,200 yards and throwing for 12 touchdowns, 5 of which came in the 1997 game when he led the Vols to victory 59-31. And former head coach Philip Fulmer finished his career off in 2008 with his final victory over the Wildcats being 28-10, leaving Kentucky winless over the 17 years Fulmer coached for the Vols. With Kentucky being a permanent opponent of Tennessee, this rivalry has many more games to come. I'm Hayes Kelleher, Torch Sports.
Welcome back to the program, everyone. And tomorrow is going to be an important one for the Tennessee Volunteers as they travel to Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats late at night at 7:45 p.m. And now it's time for an update on the players that are ruled out or ruled questionable. So here's the Torch Sports Injury Report, brought to you by Brandon Green.
Thanks, Jeremy. On the Vols side, Tennessee will be once again without their top 2 corners in Jermod McCoy, still recovering from an ACL tear he suffered in January, and Ricky Gibson III dealing with an upper body injury. Linebackers Arian Carter and Ben Bolton are listed as questionable for tomorrow's game with an undisclosed injury, along with freshman wide receiver Radarius Jackson and sophomore tight end Ethan Davis, both with an upper body injury. Quarterback Joey Aguilar suffered a neck injury during Saturday's game against Alabama. Still, Coach Josh Heupel on Monday stated that he will be ready to go for tomorrow's game against Kentucky. The Tennessee Volunteers will be facing a very battered Wildcats team. As of Wednesday night, they have listed a total of 7 players out for tomorrow's game. Linebackers Jacob Smith and Devin Smith, wide receivers Troy Stellano, their third leading receiver, David Washington Jr., defensive lineman Nick Smith, and tight end Elijah Brown are all listed as out with undisclosed injuries, while running back Jamarian Wilcox is listed as out for undisclosed reasons. Starting cornerback DJ Waller is listed as doubtful, while starting running back, Seth McGowan is offensive lineman Abe Selm, and wide receiver Fred Ferrier II are all listed as questionable for tomorrow's game. To close out, defensive lineman Khalil Saunders is listed as probable, but all of their availability could change as early as tonight. That was the Torch Sports Injury Report. I'm Brendan Green. Back to you, Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Brendan. So, gentlemen, the Alabama game is history. Now it's time to focus on the last 5 games of the season. And when you look at Tennessee's remaining schedule for the 2025 regular season, it is not the easiest stretch of games, to put it simply. And so Tennessee still has a lot of expectations, both from the fan base and the program as well, when it comes to postseason.
To me, I think you get a breath of fresh air here with Kentucky, and Brendan highlighted it. Kentucky's battered right now. Kentucky has not been very successful this year. They're 0-4 in the SEC. And I think, to me, you look at all this and you got to say, this is a game for the Volunteers to polish themselves. It was a tough game against Alabama last week. You got to take a deep breath and say, we don't have that cigar smoke from Bryant Denny still in our lungs. And one thing that I heard, and I think Jeremy actually mentioned it earlier in the show, I was listening to the Vol Network broadcast, and it was Jason Swain was talking about it after the game. He said, you cannot let Alabama beat you twice. You cannot let these mistakes that you made in Alabama, you can't let the sadness, the grief of Alabama take into this week with Kentucky. You have to go out there and you have to have your best performance.
Yes, and that is absolutely right, because in situations like that, yes, the game already happened, but if you keep making those same mistakes from that previous game, you're going to be even bigger trouble than what you were back in that game.
That's exactly right.
Exactly. And first and foremost, the expectation for the Vols in this one is to get that win.
You can't not come out of there with a win.
Exactly. The expectation is to come out of here with a win. And it's similar tones to after the Georgia game with UAB. A little kind of lower level competition than Georgia in that one, but you're coming off a loss. You need a little get back game, and you get that with UAB, and then you rattle off 2 more after that. And that's what the Vols need to do here. They need to take, like you said, leave Alabama in the past, focus on getting the win here, and then hopefully have that roll into their upcoming games.
Yeah, when we talk about playoff expectations, I mean, the Volunteers, their backs are up against the wall at least a little bit. But I agree with you, and I want to build off something you said earlier in the show, building off the positives, and that's been the run game. The run game has been trending upwards, not just last week, but you want to look at the past few weeks. It's been trending upwards. Deshaun Bishop, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, and we keep saying it week after week on this show. To win in the SEC, you got to be able to run the ball. Let's look at Texas A&M. They're first in the SEC. They have 200 rushing yards per game and 5 yards per carry. Georgia's third in the SEC. They have 190 rushing yards per game and 4.5 yards per carry. I mean, Alabama's a bit of an outlier. Their running game hasn't been as strong this year. But to win in the SEC, you need to build the run game, and that's going to help later in the year for the Volunteers as they beat down on these teams that are a little bit worn out from the long season.
Yes, of course. So big expectations still for the Volunteers in terms of SEC championships and playoffs, and we'll get to that a little bit more later on in this segment. But yes, a great opportunity for Tennessee to bounce back after that Alabama game, because Kentucky right now, they're 2-4, 0-4 in the SEC, still looking for that first conference win in the SEC. And with Kentucky not getting off to the start that they were intending, they still have some heavy hitters that Tennessee will need to prepare for. Kentucky has especially been efficient in the run game, with senior running back Seth McGowan rushing for 476 yards, and he is tied for 3rd in the SEC amongst running backs with rushing TDs, as he has 7 on the year. So along with McGowan, there are a few more Kentucky Wildcats that are looking to play dark horse in this game.
I mean, besides the run game, I'm going to be honest, they don't got much going for them. I was looking. There's not a lot of players on Kentucky's team that stand out, but one that does is the guy in their center, Cutter Boley. I mean, he's a redshirt freshman. He's only really started 4 games, and then he got in a little bit of action against Ole Miss. But he's got 885 yards, 5 total touchdowns on the year, 4 interceptions. That's going to come with some youth, some inexperience. But he has really been a bright spot for this Kentucky offense, especially replacing Zach Calzada, who is not playing up to their standards. And if he can make smart decisions versus this Tennessee defense, I mean, we've seen them be vulnerable versus quarterbacks who maybe aren't as good in the pass game. I mean, if Cutter Boley can get it going a little bit, it could get dangerous, especially with that run game to complement it.
For me, I'm looking at Willie Rodriguez, and you can take a look at all the receivers' stats on there. They've actually got 2 tight ends, Kentucky, that they use quite frequently. But I'm looking at Willie Rodriguez, 173 yards on 12 receptions. That means he's averaging 15 yards per catch, and that's a hefty number right there. And to me, you can also look at Kentucky's stats and say, let's take a look at Kendrick Law. He's a really talented wide receiver. He's averaging 9 yards per catch. And to me, you got to look at the big tight ends, and I think that's where Kentucky's going to try to exploit Tennessee a little bit, is these tight end routes. And I think that, when you get these big tight ends out there with maybe some defensive backs that Tennessee's lacking in Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson, I think Willie Rodriguez could be a threat.
There's a lot of packages you can run off those tight ends, too,
Correct.
when you have guys who can get those explosive yards
That's exactly
there.
right.
I'm going to move it to the other side of the ball, though, and I think the dark horse in this game is going to be Kentucky's defense. If you look at their defense on the season, 10 sacks, 6 interceptions, and in their last matchup against Texas, they only held them to 179 yards of total offense. And Texas is a team that has some of that firepower, as we saw earlier in the season against Oklahoma. But holding a team like that to 179 yards and having a guy like sophomore linebacker Steven Souls Jr., who's actually out of Powell, Tennessee, so he's a Tennessee boy himself, but he's got 3 sacks on the season and 2 forced fumbles. So they have some guys back there on the defensive line that are going to put pressure on Joey Aguilar, and that's going to be what they have to do to kind of get Tennessee uncomfortable in this matchup. So I would watch out for the defense in this one.
Yeah, of course. So Kentucky has not got off to the start that they have wanted to. A rough go for the first half of the season. But just like Tennessee, the Wildcats still have a lot to play for this year, and especially in terms of bowl eligibility. And like I mentioned, they're still looking for that first SEC win. And these players and more are looking to play spoiler against the Volunteers. And here to show you a few more Wildcats that will stand out in this game, let's send it back to Zach and Lucas.
Thank you, Jeremy. So we're gonna go back to what you guys were just talking about with Cutter Boley and the Kentucky offense. Now I want you to look right here. I'm not going to highlight their pass offense. I'm going to highlight their rushing offense. Their ability to run downfield is something that Tennessee has been struggling with this year. Their rushing defense. Now, the Bama game was a different story.
Right.
Bama has their own problems at running back. But watch right here. Cutter Boley, this freshman quarterback, is able to use his legs. Tennessee has struggled a lot with dual threat quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Again, we're going to see right here later in the fourth quarter. This play right here gets them on a drive to send them to overtime. Nobody's downfield, pocket collapses. What does he do? Moves his leg, moves out of the pocket. He's able to get the first down. They go down, they kick a field goal, send it to overtime.
Of course. Now, looking at the bigger picture in terms of Kentucky's defense, I want to take a look. Their passing defense has been just as shaky as their passing offense has been. And I just want to take a look at a play against Texas. Now, we have 3 cornerbacks up in the middle of the field, keeping eyes on Arch Manning, while Emmett Mosley sets up shop in the middle of the field. Now, I feel like Aguilar and Brazel are foaming at the mouth because this is where Tennessee has found most of their success is the big plays in the middle of the field.
They love
big yardage.
apart the zone.
Exactly. So this could be a big game for the passing offense for Tennessee. Now we're going to take a look here. Kentucky doesn't have a great red zone defense. Tennessee doesn't have a great red zone defense either, but Tennessee's run game in the red zone has been pretty spectacular. With the amount of sheer power they have behind the snap, they could put up a lot of points in the red zone. Now, Kentucky with sacks. Aguilar might have some time to breathe because they only got 3 sacks against Arch Manning, despite pressuring him on 46% of his dropbacks. Now, Kentucky has the power. They have the way to get to the quarterback, a way to get to the running back, but they cannot capitalize on those situations. Now, they rank nearly last, I think at 10th in turnovers gained in the season compared to Tennessee's 3rd in the SEC. So I feel like that could be a difference maker when it comes to the trajectory of this game.
Alabama was able to get to Aguilar 4 times in that game. Let's see the difference in this one.
Yeah, for sure. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. So with just a little over a month left in the 2025 college football regular season, Tennessee will need to start making some big moves to catch up in the SEC championship race. And right now we take a look at the road to Atlanta as we see the SEC standings heading into this weekend. And I know you're asking, where is Tennessee? Well, they're right there in the middle at number 10 right now, at 2-2 in the SEC. And the Texas A&M Aggies, they're looking like a heavy favorite to make it to Atlanta for the first time ever. 7-0, 4-0 in conference play, but they got some tough competition right with them. Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas. That wraps up your top 5. But, of course, a lot of teams in this lineup, they can very much pull off some big moves and get to the SEC championship game. And with Tennessee and the challenge they have this weekend against Kentucky, what sort of momentum boost would a win against the Wildcats create for the Volunteers in terms of their push for SEC championships and playoffs?
I think it'd be huge. I mean, Tennessee's path to the playoffs right now, in my opinion, is you have to win out.
100%.
Right?
Easily.
Last year, 10-2 making the playoffs. This year, I don't think you can drop another game and still get in the playoffs. So as it concerns Kentucky, you can't win them all if you don't win the first one, right? So they have to get the win here to make that push. But you look at the path to the playoffs and the teams that Tennessee has left, and Florida's obviously a big game for Tennessee just because of the rivalry there.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at the path to the playoffs, Oklahoma and Vanderbilt are the two games that I'm looking at because those could both have the possibility of being top 10 teams when Tennessee plays them. Oklahoma this week, if they beat Ole Miss, they'll probably sneak into that top 10 and then come into Knoxville, and that's a big matchup for the Vols. And then end of the season with Vanderbilt, if they keep rolling, they'll be a top 10 team. So those two are going to be huge games for the Vols if they want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, to me, you have to look at Florida and also Vanderbilt now. And that's something that I don't think is talked about enough is that, you know, this was a checkmark box game a couple of years ago for Tennessee. You saw Vanderbilt at the end of their schedule and your Thanksgiving, it's a Thanksgiving game. Yay, check it off. You know, now it's just, you know, now it's something you have to worry about. Vanderbilt's a very, very good team now. They've proved themselves very worthy in these past couple of games. Diego Pavia really learning how to command that team. And to me, if you can win this game against Kentucky, you get, like we said earlier, you get a breath of fresh air. You get to say, hey, we're still a football team. We can forgive ourselves. We can move on and certainly make a challenge at that SEC tournament.
Took Pavia, what, 6 years to get him there?
6 years? Long enough.
Wow. I mean, you can't overlook Florida either. It's in the swamp, and that has been a house of horrors for the Tennessee Vols. I mean, my goodness. But if you want to get there, I mean, Luke, you're right. You got to win them all, and you got to start now. And I think that it's hard to win on the road in the SEC. We've been saying that for the past few weeks. So anytime you can, it will help a lot with the confidence in your team. And I think really the people that you need to inspire confidence in the most is your defense and your quarterback, because they're a little shook after that game. I mean, that was the biggest game of Joey Aguilar's career, and he made a couple key mistakes. And the defense they kind of need to reset and get back on track. And Kentucky is a perfect opportunity to do that.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely right, and no means at all to look ahead to the schedule because you still got Kentucky this weekend. But these games that looked like sure wins for Tennessee years ago, now all of a sudden times have changed. They still have top-ranked Oklahoma coming up. They're going down to Florida in the swamp. Vanderbilt has not been ranked in the top 10 since microwave ovens were invented. So still a lot of great competition on the schedule for Tennessee. But first they need to get back on track against the Kentucky Wildcats. You'll see us a little bit more later on in the show for our picks and our final thoughts. But for now, let's make room for the next crew coming up here as they're going to be talking all things Tony Vitello. Stick with us.
Mom was always very self-sufficient, but we started noticing things were off.
I was forgetting my responsibilities at work.
I told Mom we should visit a doctor.
Alzheimer's. It was hard to hear that.
Early detection gave us time to seek information and support as a family. I've never felt more connected with Mom.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Become a wish maker today and be part of a journey that truly changes lives.
Since 1888, the National Geographic Society has championed generations of explorers to conserve ecosystems, share stories, and deepen understanding of every species. Today, it's more urgent than ever to illuminate and protect the vibrancy of our world, because there's always another wonder for us to explore. Will you join us? National Geographic Society. Wonder awaits.
We are the Tennessee Volunteers. And now is our time. Time for unbeatable experiences, for bold innovation, for historic moments. It's time to do what Vols do best. More life-changing research, more problem solving, more lighting the way. We have what it takes. It takes a volunteer.
Welcome back to Torch Sports. I'm your host, Charlie Fernandez, and with me here today is Jordan Smitherman and making their on-camera debuts is Mateus Fotherad and Max Enos. Now, a lot has happened in the past week, and aside from the devastating loss to Alabama, Tennessee baseball received the tragic news that head coach Tony Vitello would be leaving the program and joining the San Francisco Giants to become the 40th manager in team history. Vitello led the Volunteers to their first national title, winning in 2024, along with 3 College World Series this decade. Vitello finished his 8-year tenure at Tennessee with a .722 winning percentage across more than 450 games. Joining us live at Lindsey Nelson Stadium is our own Jack Glenn for an update on the situation.
Thanks so much, Charlie. We're right here outside Lindsey Nelson Stadium as the Tennessee baseball team takes part in batting practice, but it's no secret by now that Tennessee baseball head coach Tony Vitello is departing for the major leagues. On Wednesday, he agreed to a 3-year, $10.5 million contract with the San Francisco Giants to become the storied franchise's newest manager. This comes just 2 weeks after the Giants announced their release of manager Bob Melvin, and for Vitello comes 8 seasons after joining the Volunteers, since winning 341 games and bringing a national championship to Rocky Top. As for the Volunteers, they will now shift their focus to a managerial search. Athletic Director Danny White made it clear that Tennessee will look externally and internally for their new head coach. Josh Elander, the batting coach from a season ago and associate head coach of the Volunteers since 2022, headlines a list of possible candidates for the Volunteers head coaching vacancy. That's all we got for now from Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Thanks so much, Charlie. We'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Jack. Well, on Wednesday, we get the chance to hear Athletic Director Danny White talk about the situation and the future of Tennessee baseball.
But he's happy that Tony Vitello is not our coach anymore. We won a national championship and won a historic amount of games. But I also think that we should be happy for him. This is a decision that he made that is a pretty phenomenal accomplishment. This is not a sad day. It's a proud day. Congratulations to Tony. This is something that's never been accomplished before. The players are our number one priority right now. We'll be visiting with them later today. I'll ask for them to vote on a leadership group. I'll meet with that group more in depth tomorrow. I want them to have a voice in this process. I've asked Frank Anderson to serve as our interim head coach. I'm asking Josh Elander to be a candidate, and we are going to conduct a national search and expect a ton of interest because of what Tony and his staff and our fan base and everyone has built here. I think it's an extremely attractive position. A lot of times when you go into a coaching search, it's because there's the team isn't having the kind of success you want to have. So how do we make things better? But we're obviously 18 months removed from a national championship and just lost our coach to the big league.
Definitely a unique situation that we have not seen before, really, in all of college baseball. First time a college manager has gone up directly to the majors. So with that being said, what do you guys think Tony V's departure means for Tennessee and the future of this program?
If Josh Elander stays and becomes the head coach of this team, I don't think much will change, because he has been with Vitello since 2017, back in their Arkansas days, has been the recruiting coordinator since 2018, and is responsible for the back-to-back #1 recruiting classes in 2024 and 2025, and the loaded lineups in 2026, 2027. So the whole team is kind of in his hands, and he has coached 17 hitters and position players that have been drafted in the top 5 rounds of the MLB draft. Josh Elander is the glue guy. He's the guy who keeps this program together. So I don't know what it would look like if they decide to go with someone outside of Josh Elander, but Elander, I would be surprised if he's not the guy.
And you're right, Jordan. Let's be honest here. The Vols, they've lost more than just a coach. They've lost the heart and soul of this Tennessee baseball program. I mean, when people look back in 20 or 30 years of the glory days of all baseball, they might talk about Coach Rod Delmonico. He spent 18 years with the Vols. But Tony V, he gave the Vols a national championship. And especially from 2008 to 2017, the Vols loomed in mediocrity. Coach Todd Rowley and Dave Serrano, they had a record between the two of them, 209 wins, 223 losses. That's abysmal. And then Vitello shows up in 2017. Like we mentioned earlier, 6 NCAA tournament appearances, 3 College World Series appearances, and of course a national title. I mean, Vitello, it's much more than just the coaching. You know, he's a larger than life figure. He's, you know, it's his charisma, it's his energy in the dugout, it's his energy after the games. And not to mention, he's a good-looking guy. He's got the looks. I mean, he looks like the long-lost cousin of Bradley Cooper out there. So, people here on Rocky Top, even if you've never watched a Tennessee baseball game, they know who Tony Vitello is.
And he has the swagger,
Exactly,
and he has been a great ambassador for the university besides just a baseball coach. He goes to all the football games, all the basketball games, and everything like that.
He is a coach of the people. I mean, everybody comes to Tennessee for that baseball program for Tony Vitello. I mean, 4 times he's won National Coach of the Year. He was a 2022 SEC Coach of the Year. If you're a baseball player looking to play baseball in college, you're looking at Tony Vitello in Tennessee, and you're coming to here for this program. So I think they really got to figure out, who is going to be that next Tony Vitello? Who is going to be the guy that attracts people to this team? And like Jordan said earlier, Elander is the perfect candidate for that guy. That's right. For sure.
Also, I just don't. Tony Vitello is not replaceable. He's just
Absolutely
such
not.
a unique personality
Very
that
true.
I don't think if Tennessee is looking for the next Tony Vitello, they won't be able to do that because there's no other Tony Vitello. But that's why we keep bringing up Josh Elander could be a potential great candidate.
Definitely could
100%.
Well, Tennessee will definitely be looking to play up to their previous standards despite this major loss to the program. In other news, Tennessee soccer recently will be entering the playoffs. One question I have for you guys is how will this, going into their last match against Alabama, how will they be able to carry momentum heading into the playoffs?
They need offense. They
Yes.
need offense bad.
Absolutely,
The Tennessee Volunteers have not scored a goal in their past 3 games. They are 0-1-2 in their past 3 games, and they have not scored a goal. In the first 8 games of the season, we're 16 games into the season, they outscored opponents 17-3. Now we're heading into the last 8 games of the season, and we're still outscoring opponents, but only 11-4. A huge drop-off from the beginning of the season. I just think the Tennessee Volunteers need to get that offensive mindset back and need to get that momentum on the offensive side, for sure.
I agree. They need to get their groove back. They need to head in to the postseason with the confidence that they're one of the best teams in the SEC because the Lady Vols are. I mean, like you said, Max, their last 3 games, they've tied at Oklahoma, tied versus Florida, and lost 2-0 to Vanderbilt. And that's just not the Lady Vols that we've seen
Absolutely
this
not.
whole season that have dominated. So I think the main thing is to get their groove, get their confidence back so they can head into the postseason.
But here's the thing, Max and Jordan. I mean, the offensive opportunities, they're there. They're there in the game. Against Oklahoma, they outshot Oklahoma 16 shots today. They had 3 shots on goals and 4 corners. Against Florida, they had 24 shots, 11 shots on goals, 6 corners. And against Vanderbilt, they had 12 shots, 6 shots on goal, and 8 corners. So it's not like they're not shooting on goal. They have the offensive potential for sure. I mean, this season alone, there have been 12 different goal scorers this season. Tennessee has amazing depth on this team, so it just seems to be kind of a slump right now. And additionally, 16 different players win assists. That's the most in the SEC. 4 players who have scored 2+ goals in a single match. I mean, seriously, Tennessee, they have the offensive potential. They've shown it throughout the season, and if they can just balance the defense, which has been top-notch this season, with the offense, they can make a heavy run into the postseason for sure.
Absolutely. This team has not been hot as of recent, but we'll see if they win against Alabama can bump them up. Lady Vols are currently ranked 14th, so we'll see how things shake up before the bracket is announced. Moving on to the other side of things, men's basketball season is approaching, and the Volunteers will take on the Duke Blue Devils in an exhibition match this Sunday at 7 p.m. in the Thompson Bowling Arena. Now, last year, partially due to injury, Rick Barnes rotated consistently 9 guys on and off the floor. Now, the roster this year looks very different from last year. Many new faces and a barrage of young talent. My question for you guys is, what can we expect from Rick Barnes rotationally in this exhibition match?
I mean, clearly there's a real loss of leadership and veteran presence with, Zakai Ziegler and Jabari Meshack leaving. I mean, that culture that they were able to build here at Tennessee, the culture that Rick Barnes has built over the past few years, there's definitely a void. And I want to see who can step up to that plate to fill that void in leadership. Will it be Felix Akpar? Will it be Cade Phillips? Will it be J.P. Estrella? These guys who have been on a team for quite some time, can they lead this Tennessee Volunteers team?
Yeah, but say now personally, last week I thought Cade Phillips would definitely be somebody who last year was kind of the 6th man. I feel like he could be a 6-man starter,
yeah.
Bring high energy off the bench. And really this match is a chance for Rick Barnes to figure out what he wants to do rotationally, as there's a lot of pieces he can move around.
I'm excited to see Jacoby Gillespie and Nate Ament obviously those are the two stars heading into the season. They have preseason All-SEC honors, so I think this game will be helpful to get them to gel and to find more of a vibe with each other because they are two highly offensive players. And then you could have Felix Power in there and Cade Phillips because they are both, like you said, long tenured guys, have been there for a while, know what Rick Barnes wants. And then the guard position, I'm not really sure about that. They can rotate through it all because also, like you said, Mateus, the loss of Zakai Ziegler is huge because he was the heart and soul of this program. So it'll be hard at first to find a replacement for him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think we're all on the same page. I think that one thing that hasn't been brought up yet is the fact that Rick Barnes is going to play the lineup that's going to be able to win him the game.
Yes, this is no easy contest.
A physical lineup.
Defensive.
Physical defensive lineup. When we played Indiana University last year in an exhibition match, it was a 66-62 loss, a very close game. Zakai Ziegler played 37 minutes out of 40 total minutes in that game.
Just jumped right into it.
Jumped right into it. He's going to play whoever is the heart and soul of his team. We might not know who that is right now, but we might be able to see that from this exhibition match, and we might be able to see, like, who is the next heart and soul of this team.
Against one of the top programs in
Yes,
all of
not
college
just any
basketball history,
program.
this is the best test for Tennessee as they've ever had. I mean, Duke is a perennial program.
Despite them not being in the SEC, they're still top-notch
No,
basketball.
100%. And let's talk about depth here. I mean, that's what separates championship teams from round of 16 exits. I mean, Tennessee, year after year, I feel like that's their problem. It's getting that depth right, having players off the bench that can have just as much of an impact on the starters. And then just like you mentioned earlier, Cade Phillips, he's one of my favorite players. I call him Mr. LLC. Copyright this. Ladies love Cade Phillips. Anyways, but seriously, Cade Phillips is one of my favorite players. You know, the stat box, the score box, the box score, it just doesn't show the whole picture. When he comes in, he's a real spark plug off the bench. He sets the screens, he rebounds, he takes the charges. And every time I saw him out there, he was catching that lob for the wham
Yeah,
jam.
don't forget the alley-oop.
Janky man, you know what I mean? Yeah, but seriously.
Yes, well, that's all for us. Make sure you stick around as the football crew gives us their picks for this weekend's game. In the meantime, our very own Max Enos delivers an update on Tennessee's swim and dive.
What is up, Vols? We are here at the Allen Jones Aquatic Center where the Tennessee Volunteers swim and dive team is getting ready to take on the Texas Longhorns in Austin Friday, October 24th. Now, this is one of the most highly anticipated dual meets of the season. Both teams finishing top 10 in the SEC and in the NCAA last year and looking to build on that momentum this year. Both teams have a ton of talent on their roster, with multiple Olympians stacking up on both sides and with a bunch of top 100 recruits from the 2025 class getting ready to make their debut in the college swimming world. It is going to be a tight matchup between both teams, and it is going to be an absolute shootout all the way until the last event. Tennessee is looking to build off an amazing season from last year as they finished top 5 in both the NCAA and the SEC, something that they haven't done in the past 20 years in program history. This is a great first meet to the season to see how this team is really going to fit in the SEC this year. The meet is going to take place this Friday, October 24th. Preliminary swims start at 11 and final swims start at 6:30. That is all that we have for you from Allen Jones Aquatic Center. I'm Max Enos, Torch Sports.
Well, ladies and gents, we are just about to wrap things up on another great edition of Torch Sports. But before we do, gentlemen, you know what time it is? It is prediction time. That is right. It's time to predict who's going to come out on top of tomorrow's nighttime clash in Lexington between the Tennessee Volunteers and the Kentucky Wildcats. Of course, we start with Patrick. Who do you got?
I don't know if it's all that basketball talk, but it's got me thinking. And you see the board this week, and it's going to be Angel Reese. And this is really, I mean, as comedic as maybe, this is really just because Tennessee needs a rebound. And for better or for worse, who do you think of when you think of rebounds? You think of Angel Reese. And honestly, I just missed the summit last year a little bit, so I had to bring the women's basketball back in. But in show, I'm going to go Vols 38-24.
I don't know how I'm going to top that. You always bring it with the whiteboard. But this is going to be a crucial game for both of these teams. Of course, Tennessee, Kentucky, they are in different situations in the season, but it is a must-win game. So who's going to come out on top between Big Orange and Big Blue? It can be hard to discuss or to find out. Oh, what am I kidding? I'm going with the Big Orange to take this one. Tennessee gets to win 31-16. It is going to be a rockin' Kroger Field tomorrow night, no doubt. but Tennessee is ready to silence that crowd with Joey Aguilar and company. I got the Vols 31-16. How about you, Luca Tao?
I love it, Jeremy. I'm right on the same page. This is a get-back game for Tennessee, a win that they need, and a win that's going to hopefully lead to many more wins for this team. I don't think this is going to be a close game. I think Kentucky's still going to be looking for their first SEC win after this one. I got Tennessee 41-15.
I think Tennessee gets off hot and doesn't let off that throttle this time, guys. I got Tennessee 42, Kentucky 14, guys.
Man, I got a lot to say here.
Uh-oh. I also have a lot to say. I think this game's going to be closer than a lot of people realize.
Uh-oh.
I think Tennessee's not a very good team on the road, as we've seen this year. Played close against Mississippi State, lost against Alabama. Playing a little pessimist here. I think the Vols win. I think it's going to be close.
You know, I might have to disagree, and I have 3 points for you. Heupel is 4-0. This is not why, but Heupel is 4-0 against Kentucky. Kentucky has scored 25 or more once this season. But the last 4 times that Tennessee has faced Kentucky in Lexington, the games have been decided by 4 points or less. Not this time, though. I'm going to say it's going to be 38-18 Tennessee. I think Kentucky's defense is going to crumble, and I think Tennessee is just going to find their momentum within the passing game yet again. Back to you guys.
So a few different margin of victories that you heard from us, but overall, it is all Tennessee for the picks. A crucial game tomorrow night, and I just can't wait to see who's going to come out on top of that Saturday night prime-time showdown between Tennessee Volunteers and the Kentucky Wildcats. Well, that puts a wrap to another fantastic Friday afternoon edition of Torch Sports. This will be Tennessee's last road game for a few weeks as they will return to Neyland for a crucial homestand against the Oklahoma Sooners next week. And we'll get you more informed on that, as well as more sports action occurring across campus. So make sure you give the Torch Sports social media team a follow on Instagram and TikTok at TorchSportsUTK and X at TorchSports _UTK. So before we go, we just got a few more seconds left. Do that right now. Give social media on Torch Sports a follow so you don't miss out on any of the excitement. Well, that's all we got for you today, ladies and gents. We'll see you next week for Halloween Day. For
Patrick Falcon,
Luke Tao,
and Luke Lemery.
And I'm Jeremy Knopf II. We will see you next time. Have an awesome college football weekend. And ladies and gents, that was Torch Sports.
Dude, Jack, killed it, bro. That was so good. Your hit was so good. Absolutely killed that.